Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai FOSS News. Let's kick off with something really cool for all you aviation enthusiasts out there. According to Open Source for You, a developer has created DeskRadar, an open-source flight tracking device that's absolutely brilliant in its simplicity. This little gadget is built around an ESP32C3 Super Mini chip and features a small 1.28-inch round color screen that displays live aircraft positions in real time. Think of it like a sonar radar interface, but for planes flying around your area. The device connects to your Wi-Fi network and pulls in live flight data, displaying everything on that beautiful round screen. It's compact, it's open source, and honestly, it's the kind of project that makes you realize how accessible this tech has become. Perfect for your desk, your workshop, or anywhere you want to keep an eye on the skies. Sticking with some adorable news, Hugging Face just announced Microduck, and honestly, this might be the cutest robot development we've seen in a while. According to Open Source for You, this duck-shaped bot stands just 25 centimeters tall and is the result of collaboration between Hugging Face and their robotics subsidiary, Pollen Robotics. What makes Microduck special is that it's designed as an open-source platform for developers to experiment with reinforcement learning and physical AI. Imagine being able to train AI behaviors and deploy them directly onto hardware without jumping through a dozen hoops. That's the promise here. The bipedal design lets researchers test and refine their algorithms on actual physical hardware rather than just in simulations. Whether you're interested in robotics, machine learning, or just want to see what happens when AI meets adorable duck engineering, Microduck is worth keeping your eyes on. Now, let's shift gears to something with serious medical potential. According to Open Source for You, researchers have developed an open-source FPGA-based system for electrical impedance tomography, or EIT, which is a fancy way of saying they can create images of what's happening inside materials and biological systems using electrical properties. What's impressive here is that they've packed high-speed data acquisition and wide-bandwidth operation into a portable platform. This addresses real limitations with traditional EIT systems that tend to be bulky and slow. The FPGA approach means you get flexibility in how the hardware processes data, and because it's open source, other researchers can build on this work, improve it, and deploy it without being locked into proprietary solutions. For medical imaging, portable healthcare, and industrial monitoring applications, this could be genuinely game-changing. Okay, this next story is where things get serious and potentially controversial. As reported by Open Source for You, Nvidia is apparently in discussions to acquire Hugging Face, and we're talking about a deal valued at around $13 billion. Now, if you don't know Hugging Face, it's one of the most important open-source AI platforms out there. It's where developers share models, collaborate on projects, and basically democratize access to large language models and other AI tools. The question everyone's asking is, what happens to the open-source nature of Hugging Face if it becomes part of Nvidia's empire? Nvidia, of course, is the chip giant that powers a huge chunk of AI development. So this acquisition could dramatically shift the landscape of who controls access to AI development tools and models. It's still just reports at this stage, but it's definitely something the open-source community is watching very closely. This one's going to blow the minds of you Linux enthusiasts. According to its FOSS, a project called Multi-Kernel has just had its first public release, and it does something that sounds impossible. It lets you run multiple Linux kernels on a single machine at the same time. And here's the kicker, they're not running inside virtual machines. We're talking about booting each kernel directly on the hardware. If you're thinking about the implications, yeah, they're huge. This opens up possibilities for better isolation, improved testing, resource optimization, and all sorts of creative solutions that weren't feasible before. It's still early, but this is the kind of fundamental rethinking of how operating systems work that could influence kernel development and server architecture for years to come. Definitely one to keep an eye on. In an interesting contrast to what we're seeing elsewhere in the industry, LibreOffice just released version 26.8, and according to its FOSS, they're taking a very deliberate stance against adding AI features. Now, this comes at an interesting time because Collabora, which works closely with LibreOffice, has actually been exploring AI integration in other projects. But the Document Foundation, which oversees LibreOffice, has decided to stay focused on the fundamentals of what makes a great open-source Office suite. No generative AI, no fancy machine learning models, just solid, reliable office productivity tools. It's a philosophical choice that some will applaud and others will criticize, but it's refreshing to see a project making a clear statement about what they value and what they want to remain. Here's a really smart acquisition story that shows how to handle open source responsibly. According to Open Source for You, Amazon has acquired DuckLabs, the Amsterdam-based company behind DuckDB, which is an incredibly popular open source analytical database. But here's the key detail that makes this interesting. The acquisition doesn't include DuckDB itself. The actual database, along with related tools like DuckLake and Quack, all remain free and open source under MIT licensing, governed independently by the DuckDB Foundation. So Amazon gets the company and the talent, but the community gets to keep the software. It's a win-win that shows you don't need to proprietarize something to acquire the team behind it. This is the kind of move that builds trust with the open source community. And finally, let's talk about a genuinely practical tool that's been making waves. According to its FOSS, there's an open-source USB dongle called OpenTurface that costs about $42 and does something remarkably useful. It gives you BIOS-level keyboard and mouse control over any machine you plug it into. We're talking complete control before the operating system even boots. But it doesn't stop there. It also provides SSH access. And here's the beautiful part. The target machine doesn't need any software installed. Plug it in, and you've got instant access. For IT professionals, system administrators, and anyone who's ever been locked out of a machine or needed to troubleshoot at the hardware level, this is gold. It's the kind of practical, no-nonsense tool that makes you wonder why this didn't exist earlier.